Hey guys, Mr. George is here with another build guide for the First Ascendant. Today we're looking at Ultimate Bunny and her Electric Link Transcendent mod. Particularly for use in Onslaught Level 4, you'll be doing billions of damage and having fun doing it. It's a unique way to use Bunny that I really don't see many players using, and I'm not really sure why, because it's absolutely brutal on the battlefield. If you find anything useful or learned anything, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you have any questions, ask them down below. Without further ado, let's get into it. First, we're going to look at the Transcendent mod, Electric Link. What this does is it changes her whole kit a little bit, but what we care about is it's going to make her 3 ability a firearm enhancement ability. So instead of doing the AoE ring while you're running, you will do the AoE ring on enemies that you shoot every 10 rounds. It's actually really useful because you don't even have to hit a target 10 times. It's just every 10th bullet will shoot an AoE ring. The next important thing is your one ability becomes Electric Link. This will increase your firearm and your firearm attack. We don't care about the attack, but the fire rate up is really important and it's really good. And then our 2 ability, as long as you are moving, it will reload your weapon for you. It does not generate ammo, but it does give you the movement speed boost like before, and it will recover your rounds for you in your magazine. For the trigger mod, we're going to be pairing with it's electric display. This trigger mod, if you don't know how it works, as long as you have an acceleration enhancement, which is Bunny's 2 ability, when you hit an enemy with a normal AoE, which will be our 3rd ability, you will recover your MP and your rounds up to how many stacks of volt you have. You gain a stack of volt based off of that first stat. Mine's every 1.5 seconds. You can get that down to all the way down to 1 second. This just gives us a continuous supply of ammo and MP during combat because you kind of struggle with it a little bit, but we have some ways to compensate for that. Now we're going to talk about the Ancestor mod, and I want to explain something here. This is a crit based build, so you're going to want a critical hit rate increase on this build. We need in total, not just from our Ancestor mod, to reach 100% critical rate increase on Bunny. You need about 566% overall. Okay, so a really strong Ancestor mod will have a really high critical hit rate. Mine has a super high critical hit rate, which is a huge advantage. So when picking yours, you want skill critical hit rate, and then you want critical hit damage. Singular skill power boost ratio is also insanely good. This is what I use in the gameplay I'm demonstrating. This is what I use all the time because this is the best one that I have. But I would prioritize skill critical hit rate with a damage boost, preferably critical hit damage. Looking at the mods, before I go deep into them, I'm going to show you some options to swap out if you don't have that 566 critical hit rate or increase, or you're not even close to it. Realistically, I think if you get above 90% critical hit rate in total, which is about 500% increase, you're fine. I don't think you have to have 100% crit rate to make this work, but you do want to get close to it. So starting off, skill concentration, I wouldn't drop this. This is critical hit damage. Front lines, this is critical hit damage and some critical hit rate. It's about 28% increase towards that 566 goal. I'm running life resonance. You have the option to drop that for emergency measures. This will give you some critical hit damage and some critical hit rate. I'm running dangerous ambush, and I'll explain why later, but this is also something that you can choose to drop for skill insight, which gives you more critical hit rate. These 3 mods right here are almost 200% towards that 500 goal. So if this is what you need to run to get your critical hit rate to 90%, this is a really good option. Looking at our cooldown mods, we're running 2 of them. First, we're going to run shield consumption. This eats our shields but gives us 36, almost 37% skill cooldown. And then we're going to run focus on electric. This gives us electric skill power boost ratio and some skill cooldown. The goal here is about a 50% cooldown in total. Your 3 and 1 abilities, which you're going to be using for its buff, they're like 20-second durations, so you don't need a super ton of cooldown. The thing that hurts the most is your 4 abilities not going to benefit greatly by not having a lot of cooldown. But in Onslaught Level 4, the opportunities to make the most of this skill aren't there. You can use them against the Tyrants, but you're much better off using them against Elites or using them for the Overshield perk to help res teammates. I couldn't use this efficiently and have good results at the end of an Onslaught match, even with 90% skill cooldown. So this is why I'm aiming for that 50% skill cooldown instead. Now I am running skill expansion for some range and bio expansion for some range. This is also some HP to help with survivability. I also have increased HP on, and I'm going to be honest, I do run as much HP as possible. You don't need 20,000 HP, but having 20,000 HP saves you a lot more than not. If you don't feel like you need this and you had to make some changes here, this is a really good spot to swap increased HP out for life resonance instead. That is up to you. Between these two mods, it's the same as 1 HP mod or the blue HP mod, and I think this is also a really good setup if you are making these changes over here. For a gameplay demonstration, you're going to want to be running around to build your special resource up. Once it's going, you can, while your 2 is activated, activate your 1 ability for electric link. This will give you the fire rate buff that we want, and then use your 3 ability for the electric rings. You'll notice I'm not doing any electric rings while I'm running around, but instead every 10 bullets while you're shooting will proc that AoE ring. Secondly, if you shoot the ground, okay, clearly more than 10 shots, the 10th shot, it like stores that bullet for you, so you don't have to be super dead on accurate the entire time. For a demonstration with a crowd, you're just going to want to run, get some of your electric charge going, press your 1 ability, then your 3, and then you just start blasting. The AoE rings are kind of hard to see because my range increase is kind of large. As long as you're moving, your gun will reload. If you stop moving, you will no longer auto reload. If you run low on rounds, use your 1 ability to recover your primary ammo. For our firearm, I went with Albion Calvary Gun for a couple of reasons. If you don't know how this weapon works, when you are firing, you will be placing marks on enemies, and as long as your firearms are hitting critical hits, the bullets will ricochet. More critical hits will also ricochet. Enemies that are ricocheted will get inflicted with stun. Stunned enemies receive extra skill damage from dangerous ambush. Big reason why we're going with this weapon. Also, the more that you're shooting enemies that are marked, you will be gaining horseshoe to yourself, which is movement speed while firing to keep you moving in Onslaught 4 so you're not getting blasted by grenades the entire time. Alright, we're going to look at the mods on ACG, which I run for damage. We have Rifling Reinforcement, Action and Reaction, and Sweeping Squad. For critical hits, we have Edging Shot for rate, Better Insight for rate, Concentration Priority for damage, and Better Concentration for damage. Fire rate up. This is probably the most important mod on the entire kit because the max fire rate is 2,000 rounds a minute. This will help us get there, and I will go over that a little bit more when we get to the cores. Some quality stuff is general or expand general magazine. This lets you hold more general rounds so you don't have to worry about your ammo quite so much. And then brisk walk. On hit, you get a little bit more extra movement speed, and this is just always nice to have in the middle of combat. Now, looking at the weapon cores, we are running a 20% fire rate in one of the 2 freebie slots, another 20% fire rate in the tactical slot, a hit rate for the red slot, because again, the critical hits happening is what's most important, not so much the damage. And then we have chill attack because it is a chill weapon. Now finally, what I want to talk about is this extra free augment slot. I ran a yellow core for the 90% recoil because the recoil on ACG is really rough. This makes it non-existent for the most part. If you put another 20% fire rate here, you will be at the 200 rounds per minute without activating your 1 ability. If you want to go that route and just never worry about triggering Bunny's 1 ability, which is Electric Link for the fire rate buff, you can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. That is a solid option. I just like this recoil here because it's comfortable and I can use Bunny's 1 to give me ammo back anyway. So I felt like this is the most efficient slot for this. For the readjustment, I went with chill attack because it's a chill weapon. Critical hit damage because it's, even though it's not our primary source of damage, it is still a critical hit weapon. firearm critical hit rate to ensure we're hitting as much criticals as possible, and then multi-hit chance, because even though it's a crit weapon, hitting an extra hit, even if it's significantly weaker, 10% of the time is still really, really good for damage. Just a quick demonstration of the Albion Calvary Gun inside the lab, no abilities being applied. When you shoot enemies, you can kind of see those white lights shooting off in the distance. That is the ricochet bullets happening. And if you get lucky enough to freeze them, that's always nice too. And you can see the debuffs above their head. This enemy here is stunned. With dangerous ambush, we would be doing extra skill damage to him. Looking at our reactor, everything is changed to singular type skills with this build. So you're going to want an electric singular reactor. I run skill cooldown and critical hit damage because I'm trying to maintain that 50% critical or a skill cooldown at least. If you don't want the cooldown, or maybe your ancestor mod has cooldown, you can run skill critical hit damage with singular skill power boost ratio in that slot instead. For a component setup, I went with 4-piece Slayer just for the extra skill power boost. It's really nice to have. For your cores, I went max HP, max defense, and then for the substats, anything MP recovery, or MP based, or HP all the way down. So MP out of combat, max HP, max MP, MP in combat, defense, MP recovery modifier, which is really important. And then on the Slayer set, you kind of do whatever you want. I would put shields and shield recovery modifier here. If you're looking for something other than Slayer to run, a 2-piece Firebrand with the previously stated setup and a 2-piece Ascending is really nice. This will give you some skill cost down to help with your MP consumption, and this will give you some range and duration. These are all also very easy to make HP pieces, so you'll have way more health than with just Slayer. For the arcade board, we actually have some stuff to play with here. I grabbed this HP for survivability and this MP recovery modifier for MP recovery. But if you need some more critical hit rate, I'll show you how we're going to do that. So first, I tried to grab all the skill power buffs that I can, 1, 2, 3, and then the yellow one for 4. I grabbed the critical hit damage at the top. These are all really important. And then for our mutant cell that I grabbed, electric chain catalyst. In Onslaught 4, the enemies being such a high level, getting rid of their resistances to elements is really huge because it's a percentage of it. So taking 20% off of them is a lot because their number is just so big. So this to me, this is like the best mutant cell that you can run. Now, if you need this critical hit rate increase, some things that I would recommend doing is you can take these range off to grab the 2-piece. If you need a 3rd piece, you can eat the MP recovery modifier or the HP to achieve that, and you can kind of move stuff around where you need to. For inversion reinforcement, I went with arche synergy. If you don't know how this works, we don't care about the first part. When you pick up HP orbs, you recover some of your max shield. We don't care about that. The second part is when we obtaining MP orbs, you recover 35% of your custom resource. The way that Bunny's abilities work, the more custom resource you have, the more damage you're going to do. So refilling that instantly all the time means you're going to be doing more damage all the time rather than waiting to build that back up. So I run this for that. If you don't want to run this, the next option I would recommend is the MP or the selective neurostimulation. This gives you MP recovery every 45 seconds. It's a random amount, anywhere from 12 to almost 30%. This is a really good slot here. And for damage reduction, I run deploy hardened shell and combat adaptation. One is for getting hit by enemies, and the other one is for defeating enemies. It's more survivability and onslaught, which is pretty important to have. I don't usually talk about fellows, but on this build specifically, I cannot suggest more than the Snow Slag Dog to help you out with MP recovery. If you're struggling to get orbs, he does every once in a while throw, it's every 45 seconds, he'll throw 16% MP at you. It's a nice little boost when you might need it. I recommend running this fellow over the other two. And then finally, some notes for Onslaught Level 4, whether you're new to it or have been doing it for a while. This build, you can crush tyrants with it. You have to sit there and shoot them and run around them and do continuous damage. It's not going to be an instant kill by any means, but especially if you have teammates helping you, you're going to be doing the majority of the damage, or at least a substantial amount of damage to them. Typical strategy is to ignore the tyrants and kill the ads as fast as possible, and this build is an absolute ad slaying machine. And what's really nice is you can sit back behind the defenses and shoot out with this. You don't have to actually go towards the action unless you really want to. And then the last round of Onslaught, where all the enemies are in a big open area, it's actually kind of funny that you're shooting them from a distance and just deleting them while your teammates are trying to run up and get some kills, and they're gone before they even get there. For card selection, you definitely want skill increase based mods. The outgoing damage modifier mods are also really important. Just be careful of Rampage and Offensive Master. Both are amazing. Both will cause you to take more damage, so just be really cautious if you take those two. Another good card to take would be the critical hit increase. That's also pretty huge, but I would avoid anything that's firearm damage, melee damage kind of stuff. Something else too that I don't see a lot of people going for is I would not hesitate on taking recovery based cards in Onslaught if you already have 1 or 2 damage cards. Staying alive is sometimes way more important than the damage that you're doing and the ads that you're clearing. In public queues specifically, I have seen so many teams fall apart just because somebody dies and your random team doesn't have the patience for it and they just leave because they think you downed once, you're going to down twice. So being able to stay alive kind of helps with that kind of behavior, and being able to stay alive means that you can help your teammates get back up on their feet if they're the ones that fall. It is a team-based activity, even if it's possible to solo. If you're going to do this in public queue, you need to be a benefit as much as possible, and being able to stay alive is a huge benefit towards your team. And with all that being said, I do believe that it covers everything. If you guys have any questions, ask them down below. I'll answer them as fast as possible. If you have any suggestions you want me to try, let me know. I'll try them. If you enjoyed the video and learned anything, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel to help support channel growth. With all that being done and said, I appreciate you guys. I hope to see you next time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Season 3 of The First Ascendant.